In this, hi everyone. As I said, I'm Kimberly Connors, and I am the Executive Director of Mass Care. And we are having a testimony training this evening in anticipation of a Joint Committee on Healthcare Financing hearing. It is not confirmed yet, but we believe that it will happen on June 18th. Um, Whether you have testified in the past or you're doing it for the first time, I'm hoping there are some important things some things that might be important for your own personal testimony and why stories are powerful. Um, this work is based on this training is based on the Kennedy School's faculty member Marshall Gant. So why is storytelling important for social movements? It allows someone to actually be in the place of the person who is experiencing something. Most often, the ones that people talk about is the Rosa Parks incident, and that caused a whole civil rights movement. He was tired. We didn't want to move. And it changed everything. People were able to actually feel her weariness through the story she told and how she didn't want to be uh, to move and have to move ever again. And now we're a very different nation in some ways because of it, but her story was very important to storytelling. There's also data on this. Um, it's called the collapse of comparison. They made up a fake survey and offered to pay people to take it. One, it was about childhood hunger, and one had an identifiable life, an actual name, and a story of an individual child. Then there was the statistical model, a statistical story, and then one with both. At the end of the survey, they asked the participants to donate back the money and gave them envelopes to do so. The identifiable life, the one that people could relate to and literally put themselves in that shoes of that young child, hungry child, that was the one that got the most donations. So we use personal stories instead of statistics because people's power moves legislators, not facts. Our legislators are bombarded every day with statistics and data over and over again. Stories can move people and they stay with them. I like this one. They can't argue on your own life experience, and you're your own expert. Your story is your power. This also plainly puts the responsibility on the legislators as the people in power. This is a crisis we are experiencing, and it's your job to fix it, not just about savings money. That'll happen too. A good personal story explains the reason behind your motivation to advocate for Medicare for all. It describes the health care experience in Massachusetts from the point of view of patients, providers, business owners, and so many more. Ultimately, these perspectives link a Medicare for all framework to the current crisis in our healthcare system. Concentrate on a specific episode or instance. If you are a provider, I've been I've encountered numerous cases of this one problem. The patient, I face the dilemma between choosing basic necessities and my medical expenses. Business owner might say, I had to cut staff because I couldn't afford healthcare costs. But you want to paint a very vivid picture of that moment. Include how you felt, what was said out loud, if appropriate, might not have been, and what was going through your mind. Um, the the pictures here on this one, they show a ER. If anyone has been in an ER in Massachusetts lately, and I have quite a bit, they are amazingly overrun. ERs now, or EDs now have numbers in the hallway, and nurses assigned to the gurney that is parked in the hallway. That is a story that everyone can relate to. You're not allowed to get out of that gurney until they figure out what's wrong with you or find you a room if you need to be admitted. Second pitfall is don't be too general. It's common. We all like to, gloss over our difficulties. You want to select a specific instance at a certain time in a certain location with identifiable individuals, such as I had to, my healthcare expenses made me, or food or household necessities can be brought down to. Last week, my son John experienced an episode because we couldn't afford his medication. Next pitfall is moralizing. Aim to remain focused on your personal experiences. Avoid discussing broad shortcomings of the healthcare system, even though we know they're there, or the universal right to healthcare that everyone should possess, which we all know should happen. That's not why we're testifying. We are testifying to put our story in front of the committee. Want to push yourself to concentrate on your narrative, and for providers, share a single story about one patient. Another pitfall is the strength of the strength of our narrative lies in our listeners' capacity for empathy and sympathy. By telling a good story, you encourage them to feel the injustices and not merely comprehend or understand its immorality. Our most impactful story is rooted in our personal experience that you will share during testimony. These narratives, and I speak from experience, are highly personal, and often we get caught up in the details. It's what we have, the obstacles we encountered, and everything we have overcome. They are crucial to our individual experience, but you please be careful when including too many facts. It can confuse the listener, and also sometimes it can trick you up as you go down a rabbit hole of exactly what happened instead of telling your story that for the most emotional impact. Now focus on the ones that are the most pertinent and prioritize enhancing it. You want the completeness. For
Huh.
me, the last time I was there, the last time I testified, one of the things I said was the instant I was directed to the financial office prior to my treatment plan. And another time I said, as I sat in the chemo chair, I came to the realization these are very real moments that everyone can comprehend, and do more than comprehend, but empathize with and have sympathy for the testifier. Just as a reminder, you don't want to preach. You want to create a detailed description of a significant moment. If this is a traumatic experience that you are testifying about, begin sharing it in smaller groups, something supportive, and gradually move to larger public spaces. The first time I told my cancer story, I burst out crying. And not that the tears are not part, not that tears were not justified, but that is not good testimony. We want to stick to the story and keep the emotional level at the same. And please remember, you are not preaching to the choir. I added that one today. We have a tendency to speak in which people who are used to hearing our stories, who believe in the same causes that we do. That's not why we're testifying. We're testifying to tell our personal story and get it on record so as that the committee members can remember why we need Medicare for all. So, if anyone would like to, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And if anyone would like to take about 5 minutes and jot down a few things that if you have not testified before, if you are interested in revamping what you've used in the past, see if you can just take a couple minutes to do that. And in the meantime, and I will put in the waiting room participants. Who's not in here? Oh, I got everyone. There we go. All right, everyone's in here. All right. So there in the chat is some links how to write legislative testimony. Thank you, John. That's a great document. And the sign up for a rally and to testify on what we believe is going to be June 18th. The current rules, as from Jonathan Cohn from Progressive Masses did a good dead dive on those, and the Medicare for all, the Mass Care legislative cycle. One, two.
Before, oh, okay.
Go ahead, Michael.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I've testified a number of times in the State House, the Medical Society, and elsewhere. So I'm pretty familiar with what goes on. I can't be there in person this year, and I will prepare a testimony. It was interesting that you mentioned, Kimberly, that emergency rooms have people in the hallways. When I went in a year and a half ago for my stint, I spent 6 or 8 hours in the Bay State hallway in the emergency room. So I guess it might be something worth sharing. Um, I will plan to mostly talk about my experience as a provider, but it would probably make sense to put in a personal thing like that as well. And the question is, should I do a video or a written statement? Does anybody have any good ideas about that?
You would want to do a written statement, Michael. That is the format that they want to be submitted. But as John said, if you did a video, you included a link, they might look at it, they might not. But the format that they are anticipating is emailed testimony.
Okay,
We
so
don't
so
have
did
we
we.
don't have as soon as we have links to that, we'll make sure everyone gets them.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll plan to do the written testimony. Probably the video won't get looked at. Now, is there not going to do a live remote testimony
Yes, there is.
hearing?
Let me get into that. We're about to do that right now,
Okay.
Michael. Let me finish the slides. We're pretty close. And but yes, you can do virtual. It is a hybrid meeting. All right, let me go back to there. Oh, shoot. Why did that? All right, 5 minutes to break. There we go. Okay. So 3 minutes. John's right. It went on the campaign side. You call this an elevator speech. You want to introduce yourself to the committee chairs. You want to state your name, your city and town, and any other affiliations if you're speaking as part of an organization. Your opening statement should be something to the effect of, I support Medicare for All bills, S860, H1405, and then tell your personal story. At the end of at around 2 minutes and 45 seconds, you want to literally bring it back to why you support the bill. This is why I ask you to favorably report out. The next steps will be to testify in person or virtually. We will provide everyone, we will send it out to everyone on the email list and the go list to make sure that you have all the links to do so and the registration links once they become available. You can also testify via email, as we've discussed a couple of times here tonight. And one of the other things we're asking you to do is to encourage friends and organizations to testify. Your personal contact with someone, telling them why it's important to you, is a very powerful organizing tool to expand our Medicare for All supporters and advocates. The bill will be heard in front of the Joint Committee on Healthcare Financing. With the potential hearing date is June 18th, 2025. After the hearing, the committee has 60 days to report out the bill. So that would mean August 18th. If approved, our bill would make it to the Ways and Means, and then it would get a third reading. Now, the Medicare for All bill has always failed in this committee and been sent to study. But this session is different. We are in a post-Stewart Massachusetts, where every single healthcare office and facility is frantic and almost in crisis, and some of them actually are. Some people have zero access to health care, much more than the last hearing we had 2 years ago. When the day of the hearing, it is likely to be all day long. Typically, they start at 10. We would have a rally before. The title would be Alternative Healthcare Delivery Models. There will be other bills read. We don't know when they're going to announce it. Currently, they don't have the same rules on the House and the Senate side because they don't have joint rules, but we could get as little as 3 days notice or 5 days. We will find out what room it's going to be, and typically it's 10, but we will get confirmation at that. And then it is a hybrid. You can Zoom or in person. That usually goes whoever registers first through the committee's website that states the order. It will be live streamed and archived on the State House website, and there will be multiple bills discussed at the same hearing. Typically, there's 3 or 4. I think there's only 3 this session, including ours, that might fall under this heading. 3 ways to testify, including submitting written testimony, and I put in the chat the link to John's how to write your testimony on Zoom, 2 to 3 minutes, in person, 2 to 3 minutes. You must register, as I said, before testifying, and as soon as we have the link, we will get it out there. Oral testimony is usually first registered, first called. You can submit written as well as give your testimony orally. And we ask that when you submit testimony or if you have it in person, to please CC us at legislation@masscare.org when you submit. And then we also, 60 House, don't forget to put the bill numbers in the subject line. And once again, we're just waiting for a hearing date before we move forward. When you want to reflect on your interactions, consider your perspective. Or perhaps positive experiences from different healthcare systems. I have had people say to me, I was injured in Canada. It was the best thing that ever happened. I realized how different it is. Or someone shared that they went into early labor in Spain and how well they were taken care of by the single payer system there. So does anyone have a specific story in mind? Well, why don't you take 5 minutes to develop it? And then if people are interested, we can share our stories with each other and try to, if we have enough that we can do it without breakout, I believe. But that is my slides, and I'm going to pause the